In July 1863, New York City erupted over military conscription. History remembers the event as the Draft Riots. That name explains how the violence began. It does not explain whom the mobs chose to hunt. For 4 days, white rioters attacked black New Yorkers, invaded homes, destroyed property, and burned an orphanage for black children. 11 identified black men were lynched. Thousands of black residents were driven into hiding or out of the city. The draft was the spark. What followed was a campaign of anti-black terror. The Civil War had entered its 3rd year. On January 1, 1863, Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation declared enslaved people free in designated areas still in rebellion. In March, Congress created the first national federal draft. A selected man could avoid service by furnishing a substitute or paying a $300 commutation fee. To working families, those options seemed designed for men with money. The anger over class privilege was real. But black men were not the authors of the draft law. Racism determined where much of the anger landed. Many white workers feared that emancipation would bring more black laborers north. The tension was especially sharp on the docks, where employers had hired black workers to replace striking Irish longshoremen. Democratic politics and anti-war newspapers amplified fears that freedom for black people would come at the expense of white workers. Those fears did not make every white worker a rioter or every Irish New Yorker an attacker. The later relief record includes white neighbors, including Irish Catholics, who sheltered or escorted black residents. Responsibility belongs to the people who chose violence. Black New Yorkers were already living under unequal voting rules, job exclusion, segregation, and street violence. They had also built churches, schools, businesses, mutual aid networks, and abolitionist organizations. Those institutions sustained community life. During the riots, their visibility made them targets. Names for the draft were first drawn on Saturday, July 11th, without major violence. When the drawing resumed on Monday, July 13th, a crowd attacked a draft office. The uprising spread to police, armories, newspaper offices, factories, shops, churches, and private homes associated with Republicans, abolition, or the Union. Then mobs repeatedly turned on black people. They stopped black men in the streets, beat them, and hanged them from trees and lampposts. Abraham Franklin was a 23-year-old coachman who supported himself and his mother. A mob beat and hanged him in front of her. Soldiers cut him down and dispersed the attackers, but after they moved on, the mob returned and hanged him again. William Jones had left home to buy bread. A mob beat him, hanged him from a lamppost, and mutilated his body. These details are brutal, but they reveal the purpose of public racial terror. The violence was meant not only to kill, but to warn every black person who saw it or heard what had happened. That same Monday, a mob reached the Colored Orphan Asylum on 5th Avenue. More than 200 children between 4 and 12 years old lived there. Rioters looted the building and set it on fire. Staff led the children out through the rear and brought them to safety. All escaped the burning building, though the institution lost its home. Across the city, black residents hid in police stations, at Blackwell's Island, in Weeksville, and in the homes of sympathetic neighbors. Others fled toward Long Island, New Jersey, or Upper Manhattan. A contemporary relief committee estimated that about 5,000 black men, women, and children had been made homeless or displaced. The Metropolitan Police were outnumbered, while much of the state militia had been sent away during the Gettysburg emergency. Police and soldiers did protect some residents and fought the mobs, but protection was uneven and disastrously inadequate. Veterans of the Army of the Potomac and other troops arrived during the crisis. By Thursday, July 16th, armed force had suppressed the major violence. More than 100 people were killed, but no reliable final count survives. Historians commonly cite totals between 105 and 119. The records do not give a complete count of black deaths, and the 11 known lynchings do not include every black person killed by beatings or other attacks. What happened after the streets quieted matters too. Merchants, clergy, black community leaders, and people associated with the Union League organized relief. Their committee helped families obtain food, shelter, work, and assistance preparing claims. City and state authorities also established a compensation process. Black New Yorkers submitted lists of furniture, clothing, tools, books, jewelry, and household goods that had been stolen or destroyed. These were more than inventories. They documented households and livelihoods and insisted that the city account for what its residents had lost. But compensation was deeply unequal. Approved payments exceeded $970,000 overall, while black claims totaled less than $20,000. Most of the money went to white property owners and businesses. Recording a loss did not guarantee meaningful repair. Many displaced families never returned. Between the 1860 and 1865 counts, New York City's black population fell from roughly 12,500 to under 10,000, a decline of about one-fifth. The riots were not the only event within that 5-year span, but historians connect the violence and displacement to the change. The terror altered the geography of black New York. Black civic life continued. On March 5, 1864, the 20th United States Colored Infantry marched from its camp on Rikers Island through Manhattan to Union Square. There, the regiment received its colors before departing for New Orleans. Black soldiers moved publicly through streets touched by the previous summer's violence. Their procession offered a powerful rebuttal to the mob's claim that black people had no place in the Union. The phrase draft riots survives because conscription triggered the uprising. But if the story ends with an unfair law and angry workers, black New Yorkers become side characters in a conflict that placed them at the center of its violence. The mobs made choices. They attacked black laborers as imagined competitors, black institutions as anchors of permanence, and white neighbors who crossed the color line to offer protection. This happened in Manhattan, not in the Confederate South, in a city whose economy had long depended heavily on investments tied to slave-produced cotton, sugar, and tobacco. The full history is not only about destruction, it is also about survival. Children escaping a burning orphanage, neighbors opening their doors, families documenting every stolen tool and piece of furniture, institutions rebuilding, and black soldiers marching through the city that had failed to protect them. New York's draft riots began as resistance to conscription. For black New Yorkers, they became 4 days when safety and citizenship nearly vanished from the street, and when the fight to remain visible in the public record began before the ashes cooled. If you want more overlooked history told with evidence and context, like this video and subscribe to The Real Stickman History.